But really, we can only start for the Champions League final and have a look at it. Gab, thank you for joining us from Istanbul. We'll start with you just before hearing what Robo thinks. But what's the vibe now that you are in the city? What's your feeling about that final, and how do you see it going tactically?
Wow. So Istanbul is ever lovely. I love the fact you're in the center of town and, you can actually literally walk to Asia. But anyway, I'm sure you're not here for the travelogue, you're here for the game. I'm stating the obvious, Manchester City heavily favored, but I'm going to go on a limb and suggest that City, I think, have only won 43 of 61 games this season, and most of them against opponents that are weaker than Inter. So you still have to play the game. I think two big themes for me, at least. One is the obvious one, playing against the front two of Dzeko and Lautaro, or possibly Lukaku and Lautaro, which City are unaccustomed to. Another one, set pieces. Çalhanoğlu, Lautaro, they have a bunch of people who can hit them, and Inter of good size as well. And finally, on the pitch, Fede Di Marco. If he has a big game, if he has a game like Rico Henry had for Brentford against Manchester City when they played back in October up against Bernardo Silva, that could potentially be a game changer. These are the things Inzaghi has to hang on to.
Robo, City favorite, huge favorite, not so huge favorite. Where would you place them?
I would say huge favourites. I've watched Man City a couple of times very closely in the game against Real Madrid at the Etihad and in the Cup final. And the way they're playing at the moment it's almost like a boxing midfield with Stones. He's not playing as a centre-back. He's playing as a midfield player next to Rodri. And then De Bruyne and Gundogan playing higher up the field. The more I look, I've looked at all the systems that Inter could play, and they're only going to play with the same system. Yeah. How do they stop Man City dominating the game? And I can't see how they do that. It means they're going to have to defend very well as a back five. They're going to have to defend very well in front of or in against De Bruyne and Gundogan. But they're going to almost say to Man City, well, you're going to have loads of the ball. Can you break us down? And then it's a case of, can they counter that? And as Gab just said, can they get a set play where Çalhanoğlu delivers a good ball into the box and one of the centre halves gets on the end of it? That's their biggest threat. I can't see them having anything more than about 30% possession.
I mean, there's another component here, is the fact that Inter will play with a back five.
Yeah.
Gab mentioned the Brentford games where they played the two wins in the league with a back five, and we know that the City team exploits very well the half spaces, for example, the runs that you make kind of in between the center of the pitch and the two wingers. And with a back five, there's obviously less space.
But they're going to have to be brave, Inter. They're going to have to say, in my view, we're not going to pick up De Bruyne so much and Gundogan so much. Let them run on to Darmian.
Yeah.
Let Gundogan run on to Darmian and let De Bruyne run on to Bastoni. Yeah. And there's got to be good communication between him or those two centre halves and the midfield players, like Mkhitaryan if he's playing, and Barella, so they can go and push on and stop Rodri and Stones dominating the game. And Gab said they're playing with two up front, but it's going to be against the back three. And Diaz will probably be the player that, as we've seen him do, he comes out, he almost stops with the ball, he waits and waits, drags players to him, and then plays to either Walker or Ake or Akanji, who's ever going to play on the left-hand side. Yeah. So I still don't see how Inter are going to get a great deal of possession.
But Gabby, isn't the back five maybe the best system to beat this City team?
I think on paper, because he's just unaccustomed to it. I think Erling Haaland's record against back fives, not great either. So that plays into it. So I think that will make an adjustment. I mean, we'll see how Inter cope against City's press. We'll see if City end up pressing, because you do have the threat of the counterattacking. Or stopping a counterattack when you've got one guy coming from wide and one guy through the middle is very different than doing it against two guys playing quick balls around the corner and whatnot. So I wouldn't take it for granted that City are going to go and press and have 80% possession. That's one tactic that Pep can employ.
Yeah, that's a good point as well.
Yeah, but also I would say are we saying, and I think this would be a mistake if they say, Dumfries, you go and pick up Grealish, who plays high and wide on the left-hand side, and Di Marco, who Gav's mentioned, marking Bernardo Silva and staying really deep because Bernardo Silva pushes up on that side of the field. That leaves their counter-attacking players to be Dzeko and Martinez and
And
Barella
that's it.
a little bit.
Yeah.
You want Dumfries being one of the counter-attacking players. You want Di Marco being one of the counter-attacking players.
Because you want to also force Bernardo Silva and Grealish to defend.
So that's why the wide centre-halves have got some big problems. You know, I'm talking about Bastoni and Darmian. They've got decisions to make. Do I allow Dumfries to go forward? You know, don't worry, you go forward, I'll pick up there. Or do they worry about Gundogan making runs down the side? And do you want to leave Acerbi 1v1 against Haaland? I'm not sure you do. Yeah. So there's everywhere I look on the field, and I've looked at it over the last couple of days, how would I set up if I was Inzaghi? I'm struggling to find a way.
Well, that was the tactical kind of preview, if you want, beginning of an analysis. We go more into the game, the preview of the game. We talk about Pep and Inzaghi, of course, Haaland and this goal drive that is going through now. Lukaku, would you start Dzeko or Lukaku? Would Gabi start Dzeko or Lukaku? All of that, and obviously the treble, the potential treble for City, all of that on the podcast, the Gab and Juls Show podcast. So make sure you listen to it.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.